Hi, you clicked on today's tropical tidbit for Tuesday. Here we are, yes, looking at the Atlantic today. Look at this satellite view, trade winds rolling along across, and yet there's a disturbance within them. Big large envelope of low pressure over here north of the Antilles Islands, something we're actually going to watch. That's right, we're going to watch it over the next few days. Nice broad loop of winds here coming out of the southeast and then curving out of the northeast here. This envelope of low pressure is going to be moving off towards the northwest here over the next couple of days, and this may actually be worthy of monitoring for possible subtropical development characteristics developing with this. Notice that it's got a couple of different centers with it. One of them is over here, and then this other one to the southeast, which if you were following me on the Wunderblogs last night, I was mentioning this new one developing that could possibly be the one that rotates up and develops the main area of low pressure. And you can actually see, if you can see close enough, there's a really potent little spin coming up with it. Of course, all the convection is currently being blown off to the east. If we look at the water vapor imagery, notice that the deep mid to upper flow across this whole region is westerly and at a pretty good clip too right now, blowing all the thunderstorms off to the east, and this is shearing it pretty good right now. But notice what's happening here. Here's this trough up here that's lifting out now that brought all this severe weather to the United States over the last few days. This ridge is pumping in, and as this builds northeast, this little trough in here, kind of hard to see, but there's a depression in the heights east of the United States right now, and this is digging in, and as this ridge balloons up over here, this is going to be one of our first classic La Nina year trough splits that occurs where this digs down in and tries to come up above this feature. And what this is going to do is it's going to do two things. One, it's going to bring upper divergence on the southeast side of the trough over the system, helping to deepen the pressures at the surface, but it's also going to lighten the winds aloft. This subtropical jet racing over right now is going to be depressed slightly to the south. It's unclear exactly how far south we'll be able to get it pushed, but the winds, especially on the north side of this, are going to be much lighter, and this whole region here is going to be full of low pressure aloft with fairly light winds, and we're going to have a vertically stacked area of low pressure up through at least 500 millibars. The key will be how deep we get that trough of 200 millibars to see if we can get that shear down, but it's looking like we're going to start seeing some low pressure deepen out of this as it comes northwest over the next couple of days. Now, to prove this is not madness, I'm not going crazy, here's a look at some of the models. Here's the GFS, 72 hours, broad area low pressure, lots of precipitation around it. Wind max will likely be away from the center, but it's definitely deepening. It's a closed low here. Day 3, the NAM is farther southwest and has a wicked looking warm core look to the system, which is typical of the NAM feedback model. Nice, rain bands with a deep low. Canadian, also a hurricane happy model, going nuts with this a little bit, deepening it pretty significantly with all this high pressure to the north of it. But besides the hurricane models, we've got the NOGAP 72 hours, we've got the UK Met 72 hours, we even have the European down here at 72 hours. Look at that low, sub 1010 millibars, vertically stacked under the 500 millibar trough on the European, south of Bermuda in 3 days. So this is definitely something to look out for. The key for this being a subtropical development, we can support it above about 23 degrees Celsius. The 26 C line is still down here in terms of the sea surface temperatures. It's not going to be over 26 seawater for a good portion of its life. 23 C line is up here. It's going to have to stay south of about 28 north if it's going to have any hope of warm core development. But the thing about this is what the models do with it is once it winds up, it takes it out here. Most of the models develop this really nicely south of Bermuda, but after the trough starts to move on and the ridge builds in really strong over here, it starts to force this back towards the southwest underneath the ridge once the weakness to the north goes by. And once this comes to the southwest, it'll start getting forced to support itself via warm core processes, and it's not going to be able to sustain itself very well doing that, especially on the convergent side of the ridge. And that's going to end up in it filling and weakening. Almost all the models show it weakening substantially, except for like the NAM and the Canadian, which will feed it back until God knows when. But the other reliable models start to weaken it after it moves southwest, and I like this idea. I think it makes sense that this will try to become shallow warm core structure before moving off to the southwest, at which point it will start to weaken. So not a great concern for like the United States coastline, but it's definitely interesting to see some potential subtropical development already here in April doesn't say a whole lot about the overall tropical activity in the deep tropics for the season, but of course it is interesting to see this going on this early. So we shall see what happens. Alright, that's it for today. Thanks for watching.